What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another podcast, another Wednesday's podcast. Today, we have a guest that I met a couple years ago now. They were up last weekend, which I don't know when this is going to drop, but they were up first day of the duck split for us, and, love using their products. We talk about their products all the time. It's Dakota with GATOR Decoys. Dakota, I appreciate you coming on and spending the time and getting out of the in-law work tonight to be on here. How you been?
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me on, Kyle. We've been pretty good since we last saw each other a couple weeks ago.
Last weekend, I think, wasn't it? Yeah, already. Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Time's flying already.
Yeah.
These birds been making me lose my mind, I'll tell you that.
They can have that effect.
Yeah.
Especially later on in the season,
Well, it's as you probably know, it's been such a hectic season, which, we've talked even last year about having you come up and couldn't really get the exact dates figured out or couldn't figure out what, the birds or whatever it may have been. And then this year, kind of the same thing. I feel like we're, it's just such a hit or miss. I mean, especially this year more than anything. A lot of our crops got tilled under right away, but obviously the warm weather, and I mean, there's so many different factors that it's just been a blackish, I don't even know if that's a word, but season.
Yeah, it's been a peculiar year to say the least. It's, I think there's been multiple factors, but yeah, it's been pretty odd. The first split was pretty lackluster to say the least. It was very, very dull, not a lot of birds. And then, we're finally getting into some cold weather, which is a plus. So we've definitely seen an uptick in migration here, but nothing like years past yet. So
yeah, same thing for us. But what's crazy for us is we finally just got hit with cold weather, and then it seems instantly we're already locking up on the water. So it's just, you're happy to see the cold weather, but at the same time, you hate to see the ice start forming and pushing birds. I mean, for you, obviously, you guys down south of us here are loving it because, we're holding most of the birds for you guys, but for us to have a couple more days and stuff, I'm biting my fingernails over here.
Yeah, no, it definitely makes it nice. I don't mind the ice. Obviously you guys hunt a lot of fields, but we have quite a few river systems down here, and rivers, creeks, backwater that it stays open almost all year. I've never seen some of the spots we hunt freeze over, so
that's nice to have then.
And yeah, they do hold birds. But like I said, it just really depends on the weather and what they want to do that day. So
right. Before, I know we kind of got on a tangent there about the migration because it's been such a crazy thing this year. And before we get into really getting to know you and the company here,
sure,
I got a crazy question, which I might be completely off on it, but it's kind of been one of those things this year where I feel like that might have a factor on the migration, and I just kind of want to see where you're sitting with it. The fires up in Canada this year.
The what up at? Oh, the fires. Okay.
Yeah, the fires up there, which I've been told by multiple sources that waterfowl don't like smoke, which some of my friends will deny. But
okay.
I almost think that there's some sort, maybe nesting or something, possibly that the fires had something to do with it since they were so, big and widespread out. I mean, we were getting smoke over here by me, where you couldn't even see 20 feet in front of you for a week straight.
Yeah.
And I don't know opinion. I want to hear your opinion on that. It might sound crazy. I don't know.
That's the first I've ever heard of it, to be completely honest. But like you were saying, you guys got smoke in Michigan. We saw the smoke down here in Ohio.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. There for, I think maybe a week straight, we saw it. And, I would have to say that I don't think any animal would like smoke, to breathe that in all the time. So I definitely think that it could have an effect on it. It could. I don't know exactly where the fires took place in Canada, like in correlation to different nesting grounds,
Right.
but it very well could have. Could have damaged and destroyed their nesting grounds, and it could have killed birds. They're definitely, or pushed them out. So it's very much a possibility, but I don't know enough about it to say like for sure on anything.
Which I don't either. So some people are probably going to think I'm absolutely crazy for even saying that. But like, you've hunted with us a couple times now, and I absolutely get stupid with decoy spreads or whatever. Like just anything in general. Like, I just get so. Like, I look way further on than I really need to. I mean, we could have. And we'll get into this, this past hunt, we could have probably thrown 2 duck decoys or 2 goose floaters out there on the water and probably did the exact same that we did. Like, but here I am, like, throwing some crazy thing at them, which wasn't crazy by all means, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things there.
Yeah.
But no, for the listeners that don't know you, which I don't know how they don't with talking about you guys all the time. Can you kind of just explain, the company or even just you and how everything started for you? Even if it was going back to, the early years of waterfowl hunting, what got you interested? What drove the passion, for it all?
Yeah. I guess I can just start right in the beginning. Man, I was in my early teens, probably 14 maybe. And my uncle invited me out to go duck hunting for the first time. It was a season opener down here in Ohio on Grand Lake St. Mary's.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard of that.
Yeah.
It's pretty common lake. But yeah, he took me out. A buddy of his had a blind, and we went out, and it was kind of a peculiar morning, like kind of foggy, rainy. So it was like one you'd remember.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got hooked that day. His friend, his name's Brian. He was kind of a mentor to me when it come to duck hunting. But I remember we were sitting in the blind that first day, and he kind of made fun of me because I had these cheap Walmart calls, like I was new and like trying to get into it, And I remember leaning out of the blind, going to shoot a duck one time, and he just railed on me. He was like, "Don't you ever lean out of the blind until I tell you to shoot." And it's kind of that, I wouldn't say constructive criticism, but I appreciated it. And
so what you're telling me, not to cut you off, which I might do this a couple times during the story.
Oh, you're good.
What you're telling me is we needed him in the blind last year.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I needed to know.
Oh man. He was one of the guys that if we were calling geese in another group sky blasted at him, he'd lean out of the blind and just start cussing people out across the lake.
We definitely needed him then that day.
Oh yeah. He was that type of guy, but I really appreciated, the type of a waterfowler he was. Mm-hmm. He was very old school. He was very precise, like the way he set his decoys. And I try to mimic that still today because you don't see it too often. Mm-hmm. And he's probably one of the most phenomenal callers I've ever met. And just to pick up a call and to know the species without even like just a glance, and he can just mimic it. I watched him do it with teal and pintail and just, it was crazy. So it was very, very interesting to watch him. But yeah, him and my uncle, they were the reason I got into it. And they took me out and, showed me the ropes, and then it kind of tapered off with them, and I started doing my own thing, and I bought my own boat, my own decoys, and got a dog, and really started up, and a buddy of mine I invited to go with me, so we started. I told him, I was like, "Hey man, I'm just going to let you know, if you hunt with me, you're really going to love this, and you're probably going to go broke doing it."
Yeah, exactly.
And he just laughed at me and was like, "Oh yeah, okay." So we went out and shot some birds, and by the next time we hunted, he had bought new waders, new decoys, new duck calls. I mean, he had it all laid out. So he was addicted, and it really just took off. So I've been duck hunting ever since, and I got my brother into it, my dad, and still duck hunt with friends, and it's been a passion of mine since my early teens, and I'd say probably when I want to say back in 2015 was when I wanted to start building decoys.
What kind of got you into that? Was it, well, like, if you don't mind, I'm going to backtrack for a second, because I'm just curious on something that you brought up.
No, you're good.
What was his name? I'm sorry, Dave? The guy that yelled at you?
Oh, Brian.
Brian, okay, I'm sorry. So, yeah. Brian, you were saying, was very particular on decoy setup and the way he set up, or what birds he threw out, or whatever it may have been. Can you kind of elaborate just on, like, what was going on? Because there's a lot of people, I feel like, and I talk about this a lot on here, when people don't realize, like, you throw 2 to 3 dozen out on the water like everybody else, and 2 mojos, and they're like, well, why are the birds not working? I mean, prime example is that cornhole, where every time we've hunted it, and I brought it up to you, I think it was the night before, actually. There was one day where we ran 4 mojos. There was days, I don't think we ran any days that you came up, any mojos when you came up.
Nope.
More of a goose spread or a duck spread. You know what I mean? Just, you got to change it up, and I don't think enough people understand that. So I just wanted to, I was curious to know how he was.
It was definitely, we changed it quite a bit. So early season, during the first split, it'd be quite a few puddle ducks, mallards, pintails, widgeon, mixed in with geese. And then later on, as the season went, he hated mojos or spinning wing decoys. He really hated them. He never ran them.
Really?
And it might have been half of his success, because if you're the only guy that's not running them,
right, it's a good point.
You're different. Right. So, but yeah, he didn't run them, I don't think, ever when we hunted. He was old school, just regular floater decoys. And then as the season went on, stuff would change some. He'd pull certain birds depending on what he was seeing in the area, and also increase. A lot of the time later on in the season down here, we see a huge uptick in geese. Mm-hmm. So, like, even now with me, like towards the end of the season, I like to run a huge goose spread and trickle in some mallards with it, or puddle ducks, and I do really good with that, to be honest. It's one of my favorite spreads, and it really works very well.
I think it's just more of a confidence booster, and I don't think enough people realize, like, the amount of one species to another in confidence.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people, like, me and Trav, which I don't know if you've met Trav yet, maybe on the phone or whatever it may have been, but we were at a outdoor shop not too long ago, and he's like, man, should I buy these buffle heads? Like, I'm going out and hunting this, inland lake here. Like, dude, just buy coot decoys and throw them out there and see what happens. Like, coot decoys, like, do crazy things. I mean, it's nuts what those do. I don't know if you follow that Bo Brooks on, what was that, on TikTok, I think it was. I think he's putting, like, he had a whole pallet of coot decoys. Like, it was over 100 coot decoys, and he's going to put it on a giant raft. But I don't know how it is down there, I'll say. But up by us, there's coots everywhere. So, but the mallards are all trickled in. It's just like one of those confident decoys, you know, the black on the water and just one of those things that nobody else runs.
Yeah.
Just those kind of things are throwing swans out there in your spread. It's just people just overlook that so much, you know.
Sure. You know, I think a lot of people kind of get into a habit.
Yeah, for sure.
They'll throw out a huge mallard spread and just stay with it. And sometimes they'll you know, move them a little bit. You know, they'll go out and change it, but you know, they do overlook it. I think a lot of the time, even when I'm coming in, I see kind of the same decoy setup from spot to spot to spot. You know, you have 2-3 dozen mallards and then a couple mojos and then like a pod of geese way off to the side. And every bird's seen that.
Right.
From Michigan, Ohio, Canada down. So yeah, it definitely, I really think changing it up definitely helps. I like to, like I said, I like to run a bigger goose spread later on with mallards trickled in with them, you know, like they're actually sitting there with them, and it's worked great for us. We've killed a lot over that.
I mean, let's face it too, you know, you're scouting, say, and unless you have, you know, a spot like we hunted last weekend, or you know, I don't want to say private property because I don't want to pin that to a point, because I know there are spots out on the public where, you know, the birds just want to be in that spot.
Sure.
But how many mallards are you usually seeing when you're out scouting or doing whatever? I mean, there's only maybe a dozen or whatever it may be. Like there's not, you know, a crazy amount of mallards or puddlers in one spot, unless you got those little back slough ponds or, you know, just certain situations, I guess what I'm saying. Like if there's no feed or you're feeding in deep water, the ducks aren't there for a reason. So don't, you know, try to throw out a giant mallard spread, because they already know what's going on over there.
Yeah.
And and you know, granted, some people aren't fortunate enough to have private ponds or fields or whatever it may be, and I understand just trying it, but it's the realism that I think people forget.
Sure. Yeah, that's honestly that's one of the biggest factors when setting a decoy spread. Like when we go out and scout, one of the main things that I look at is how are these ducks sitting?
Mm-hmm.
You know, where are they sitting at in correlation to feed? Where are they sitting at on the water? What kind of wind do we have? And really what they look like, the size, the number of groups they're in. And then I really like to replicate that when we go out. And for the most part, that works too. So if they're in big numbers, you know, it's nice to have a little bit bigger spread, but if you're seeing smaller pods and, you know, you're having some backwater, it's not a bad thing just to throw out a handful of them.
Right. I mean, well, and I think that's what, like, I guess going back to it, when you guys are throwing goose, like a big goose spread on a river or like open water, that's more likely to be seen compared to, like we said, like a bunch of mallards out there. And that's probably why you guys are doing as good as you guys are. And it's just like, I don't know. It always goes back to like the confidence thing for me.
Yeah.
And
it's different.
Right.
You know,
and nobody else is doing it. That's the thing.
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever seen anybody else run up like a majority goose spread, you know, late mallard season. And maybe they do, and I just don't see them. But most of the time, the guys I see, they're just running all puddle ducks. So,
right.
So yeah, for sure, changing it up, it helps. And confidence, you know, I've seen, like you said, guys throw swans out there and blue heron and everything else.
It's funny because everybody makes fun of the guy, but he's probably the only one that's coming back to the launch or whatever, the check station or whatever, with the birds in the hand. They see it in the morning and they're like, man, what the heck? This guy has no idea what he's doing. I'm telling you, he knows a little bit more than you think.
Yeah.
But so not like that was, I was just curious on your output on your spreads and stuff like that, or reasoning why, because, I can go on and on about that. There's so many different things in the field or in the sheet water that we hunt that I just try to do different from everybody else. And it even goes back to the silhouettes for me. With the birds seeing silhouettes all the way down the flight path, if I can, then I want to run all full bodies. I don't want to run silhouettes. But is there a time and place? Sure,
Yeah.
But going back to the decoy carving, what kind of got you into that? Was it like seeing just like pictures, or what kind of intrigued you into like not carving but making decoys?
Off the top of my head, I don't really know. But I guess it was just the desire to have my own business and to be in the waterfowl industry.
Just the passion behind it.
Yeah. I would say that. And I tried, I want to say this was back in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
So, trying to think, I can't remember the guy's name, but I tried to do it the old school way. You know how they carve like a master
with the cork
decoy,
or no?
And then you do a mold out of that, like a 2-part vertical mold.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was doing all the research on that, and I had a bird carved and was really moving in that direction, and it just kind of fizzled out. So I just kind of lost I wouldn't say motivation or desire, but it was just, I want to be different.
Right.
And I don't want to do this like everybody else. And I don't want to make plastic decoys because everybody has them. And I wanted to be different. So a couple years later, I would say January of 2018. I think I told you the story about how I had a dream about this.
Yeah, but I mean, I do remember this because I actually bring this up when I do talk about the company itself. But for the people that haven't listened, because of certain circumstances that have happened for the other podcast, we'll say, would you be able to just explain or just kind of, say what actually brought you to it, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely. So back in January, it was either 2017 or 18, I'd have to look, but I had a dream about this business. So God showed me the name of the business, the decoys, the slogan, and like the material that they were made out of. So I ended up writing all that down and just began the process. And, you start like everybody else from square one. So really learning how they were made and how people did them, and then figuring out how to set yourself apart. So it's been, it's 2014 now. Wow. So 24. It's been several years, but
Did you say 14 or 24?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I misunderstood that, or we broke up. I was like, it's not 2014, like bringing me back in time there for a second.
No, it's 2024 already.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, but even through the years, like as I was progressing with this business, every now and again, I would have another dream. God would show up and show me another step to this business and how to move into that. So that was nice, and it gives you like a fresh, like a second wind to keep moving.
Right.
Because it's been 3, 4, 5, like 6 years, and sometimes it gets like, man, this is taking forever. But it's been a good journey. It's been fun, and we've met a lot of people, and even making these decoy poles first, and it's been fun, and getting to go to different shows. that's been pretty interesting. But yeah, so he would, they'd show up and he'd show me a dream, and it would, I'd write that down and really just move into that. And we're really starting to finalize a few things, and hopefully here pretty quick we'll have some of these prototypes rolling out and really start getting some headway on this.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see the prototypes, and I completely understand the struggles, we'll say, with like a newer, and I say this lightly, like a business, because I don't consider us like a business per se, even though we have like merchandise, we have the podcast and this, that, and the other, but it's more of just like a journey that people are following, I guess you'll say. Because I mean, it's a group of us, and it's not like I'm not making any money on this, or I'm not doing anything crazy. It's people are following, like I said, the journey. But it is hard to keep going and living such a busy life with the podcast or the Instagram or, just the hunting itself. I mean, it's nice to have that, reassurance for yourself to keep pushing, and you're doing the right thing to go with what's right,
Oh yeah.
And same thing. I'll even go back to, it's crazy. It's a double-edged sword, I'll say. It's crazy the amount of amazing people that you meet from like social media and stuff. Through the podcast or through Instagram, and I'm sure like with yourself with GATOR Decoys and stuff, and even the shows, because boy, I'll tell you what, those shows are they're different. I'll put it that way.
They are very much.
We just got into our first ones last year, and we're doing live podcasts at the shows and interviewing people while we're there, and just kind of get that realism effect of like, if say you listen to it, I want to make sure like you feel like you're almost there walking around,
Yeah.
And some of them people there, God bless them is all I got to say. I'll leave it at that, and I guarantee you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
But because I think actually we've talked about even next year or this past year, I believe we talked about maybe grabbing some poles and displaying them wise, at the shows wise, and maybe we'll talk about that after all of this or down the road for this upcoming year, because it's nice to help promote you guys, and I always say too that we stand behind all the companies that work with us, and we're using your guys' stuff for a reason. It's not just because, it's because we believe in it,
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I don't know. I was getting off track there because I can keep going on whatever. But so question so you started off with the decoys and stuff. You had a vision for the decoys. What kind of brought you into the spinning wing decoys, even though your, I guess, guide will say, or the person that guided you through waterfowl at an early age did not use them at all?
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. He never used them, and miraculously, I invented a product for him. So, honestly, I was so sick and tired of rusted buttons and not being able to click poles together, and I'm like, man, I'm done with this. I'm making something because there's nothing out there.
Right.
So I just designed this, and we had several prototypes come in, and we got one finished, and I was happy with it, and we got that out there. But another funny story with that is, I remember I was kind of on the fence about it, because I don't know why I was, but I asked the Lord. I said, man, God, do you really want me to release these? And I said, okay, if you want me to release these, I need $400. And $400 is how much the prototype cost.
I'm going to guess you didn't win $400 on pull tabs.
No, no, I won $1
just
last time I was with you.
So I was gonna say, since you just found out what pull tabs kind of were.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah. So I said, God, I need $400 because not that I didn't have it, but I just wanted to use my faith and to really prove what I needed to do. So a week later, I get a phone call and a guy said, "Hey, I need you to trench in a gas line for me. How much will you charge me?" And I said, "Oh, $200 is fine. I'll trench it in for you." And he was like, "Cool, deal." So I did that. And then another week passes and I get another phone call and a guy said, "Hey, I need you to backfill around my house. We put in a new, like a drainage system." So he wanted me to come over and do some work for him. So I said, "Sure." And I just told him, don't worry about it, because he had done some work at my house and I was just trading off with him.
Right.
So I get there and I get all my equipment unloaded and he walks up and he hands me some money and I'm like, "What's this?" And he said, "Well, this is for fuel and whatnot." And I look down and there's $200 in my hand.
No kidding.
And I said, "Man, I can't take this. You just keep it. You've helped me in my house." And he said, "Are you sure?" I said, Yeah, I'm sure." So I get in the loader and the Lord said to me, he's like, "Well, there was your $400. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I just missed it. I gave it back." But I said, "Okay, God, I'll release these." So that was the start of it. And we got rolling and been doing it ever since.
So it's funny because I explain the polls to everybody that comes on and others as well. Because I have, I don't know, I'll say 6, 7, like the pointed ends of the other poles. I got 18 T's. I mean, half of the stuff, I don't even know how it came about with having all these different parts of the stick itself.
Yeah.
And it's so nice to just be able to screw and unscrew and lift and lower. And it's I don't know. It's a game changer. That's for sure. You don't have a bunch of missing pieces or, oh man, I wish I had one more piece to make this a little bit taller or whatever it may be. It's just there,
Yeah. Yep. And that was the goal, to eliminate a bunch of parts, all one piece and easy to get in and out, easy for guys to use. So
you guys just came out with the field adapter. Do you kind of want to talk about that as well?
Yeah, sure. So we just designed and released one of our new, I guess you'd call it a field adapter. It's our BSV base that attaches to our poles. So one problem a lot of guys were having with all poles, in Ohio, we can hunt into late January and February. So getting any pole into the ground when it's frozen was really a nightmare. So unless you pre-drilled it with, a drill and then, or beat it in with a sledgehammer. So we designed these. It's a 2-part, all aluminum base. And really all you have to do is, if you have most people have an impact, it's got a 3/4 inch chuck on the top and you screw it in the ground, put the bushing on top and slide your pole in and you're ready to go.
Yeah. They're super nice. Cause I remember, I think it was last year. Last year we were hunting a field and I think we reached out to you guys after the hunt because like the corn stubble or the just compacted dirt, it was just so hard to get the poles in the ground. And, shortly after you guys came out with that, and it was just such a nice thing to have with, whether it be frozen ground or just rock hard ground, whatever it may be. It's so nice to have that. And not have, 1,000 different moving parts or parts that you have to bring out or worry about on a hunt,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, really what it was for: hard clay, frozen ground, any sort of rocky base. It's very nice and easy to use to get it in and makes it's super user friendly. So
yeah, no, it definitely is. It is for sure. It's crazy. You know, we kind of met over the social media standpoint of it all. You know, it wasn't, I mean, I think you're what, 2-3 hours away from the house here.
Yeah, just about 2 hours.
And it's crazy. And I brought it up already once, but the amount of good people that you meet, like yourself and, you know, Sean that hunted with us, that weekend you guys were here. I actually met him through social media as well. And yeah, it's kind of crazy just to, you know, the people that you meet, but I guess the point of it all is why I'm bringing it up is, you know, you never know until you know, I guess. And you shouldn't be scared to just reach out or try to learn or ask questions or whatever it may be and try to build a friendship or whatever it may be. It's one of those things where, you know, somebody will have a bad past on asking somebody because they're, you know, obviously there's some pretty cruel people out there and will snap right on you asking anything. But I just want to say, like, very fortunate to have met you guys and some other people.
Yeah, same here, man.
Which, yeah, I appreciate you saying that. Just, I mean, it's hard to come by nowadays, you know, especially in this industry. Everybody's just so cutthroat and everything. It's tough. I'm just curious, like, on your guys' social media standpoint, you know, what are some ups and downs that you guys have ran into? You know, because there's always that one Facebook, you know, backslasher, you know, the guy that's always just running his mouth, or like we said, you meet good people. There's a giant gap in between them both.
Yeah, we've fortunate enough for us, we really haven't had a ton of that. We've had some guys, you know, they're nitpickers and they'll say stuff like, oh, you know, your poles are $70 and I'd rather go buy a piece of PVC and spray paint it black, or I'd rather, you know, go get a piece of rebar and makeshift it. And I'm like, hey, you know, that's cool, man. Do whatever you want.
Kudos to, yeah, I mean,
you carry around a 20-foot stick of rebar in your boat. That's fine. You know, do whatever you want.
And I guess like, you know, the pros and cons like that, not to cut you off. I guess I warned you before, man. I'm bad at this.
No, you're all right.
But even like because social media is such a pinpoint for a company on promotion and reaching out to new people in different areas.
Yeah.
I mean, pros and cons even for that, you know, not that I didn't want to hear pros and cons about the people, but just even you know, the struggles with it, because we struggle a lot, you know, we all got lives and stuff, and it's hard to promote all the time or hard to post all the time or whatever it may be. And let's face it, this whole world nowadays is ran off your thing in your pocket there.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy.
Yeah. Sorry, I must have completely misinterpreted what you said before.
No. Right? Because I was bad on, I'm drawing a blank now, but I did not explain at all on what was going on, but the feedback from people, obviously, so people know about the product and more about you, is also obviously good to hear.
Sure. So are you really just asking about the struggles, the ups and downs of social media?
Yeah, I went on a complete just roundabout there. Yeah, just like with social media being such a standpoint on, you know, promotional basis and getting the name out there and reaching out. I mean, the struggles with that compared to, you know, back then, I feel like it might have been a little bit easier for local people to know and word of mouth, and which obviously word of mouth is still around, obviously, but I don't know. It's for us anyway. Like I said, it's hard to post all the time or to reach out to everybody that we do, and you know, it gets tough.
Yeah, I think really the biggest issue is content, and learning the content that people want to see.
Yeah, for sure.
That's definitely a big deal, whether people want to see pictures or videos, short reels, whatever it may be. That's definitely one. And, I guess there's not really a ton of downside, in my opinion, to social media. Honestly, it's kind of a blessing to have. Like, you have people from all over the world being able to search you and to find you and to see what you have. And, I've shipped orders to California, to Wisconsin, to Texas, to Florida, all over. And, without that, people most likely wouldn't have been able to see what we have. So very fortunate for that, and really being able to market ourselves. But, at the end of the day, it just comes down to money and how much money you can spend on marketing and learning how to find and figure out the algorithms and really like what areas concentrate the most waterfowl hunters in the U.S. That's really where you market to. So
I think we talked about that as well with the last, like the waterfowl festivals that you guys have been going to, or the events.
Yeah.
That I think you guys actually did research on, most tags bought or whatever it may have been. I think we talked about that. No.
I don't know if we talked about that, but I know that the Wisconsin. Okay, so one of the festivals we go to, the Wisconsin Waterfowl Festival, that's up in Oshkosh. But so what they did was they figured out in Wisconsin where the highest majority of federal duck stamps were purchased. Mm-hmm. And they figured out it was, centralized in Oshkosh. So they decided to hold a festival there. And, smart on them, because that's where they'll draw all the people, because all the waterfowl hunters are there.
Right.
So what I did was kind of replicate that. I did some research nationally and just did that, marketed to the states and the counties and cities where all that held the most waterfowl hunters.
Yeah, which is what I'm almost positive we started talking about that with. It might not even been during season or anything, but maybe more towards like the shows and stuff. Because I remember you telling me about that, and I was like, just so like never even would have thought about looking that kind of stuff up and thinking about that.
Sure. Yeah, it definitely helped. We saw a huge uptick in business when we did that. So, but honestly, it'd be hard to believe that California holds the most.
Which, obviously everybody hates. Hate's a strong word. I'm not going to say that. Have their opinions on California.
Yeah.
But the amount of waterfowl and the species and the videos and pictures that I've seen from over there are incredible.
Yes, there's a lot of waterfowl over there. Very underrated.
Very, very. I mean, the spoonies, the pintail. I think it was last year. Obviously California's pretty big, but there was a couple bands that were banded in Japan that were shot in California, I want to say.
Wow.
Just I don't know. It's like you said, very, very underrated.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of a surprise when I first looked it up. Like you wouldn't think, because of all the the band regulations and
right,
whatever side of the aisle they're on, you wouldn't think that they'd have the highest number of waterfowl hunters. But it's, I guess, the proofs in the tags purchased. So in your typical, Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, they held a lot of people, and they had a lot of, pretty high numbers. Texas, Oregon as well, but all down the flyways. But California, really, they had a lot.
No, it's pretty crazy. I am going to take a quick break real quick, if you don't mind, and we're going to jump right back into it. All right. now we're back. The big joke is I always forget my depends when I do these podcasts, so I got to take a break like halfway through. So use the restroom, walked outside, and I can't believe there's snow on the ground right now. First time all year, and of course it's like end of season, which I just thought was crazy. But jumping back into what we were talking about, you were talking about, sending your stuff all over, pretty much the country. With that being said, what would be a dream state of yours to hunt in? Or what would be a dream hunt? Is it flooded timber, or is it Texas cacklers, or California with the spoonies out there? What would be your dream hunt?
Oh man, just waterfowl?
Yeah, we'll start with waterfowl. Yeah, and I know it's so hard because there's so many different spots that, just sound amazing.
I mean, you can never go wrong with flooded timber. That I watch those guys on TV. I think it's White Oaks.
Yeah.
It just something different about it. It's kind of surreal. Never done it, but would love to do it here in the future at some point. I've always heard Canada is an amazing opportunity. Man, the Dakotas are another great spot. I don't know, man. It's hard to. I would have to say off the top of my head, a king eider hunt would be awesome.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking of that, but now that you're saying that, like 100%, or a emperor goose.
Yep. Okay. Yep.
Would probably be like a dream bird per se.
Yeah.
I don't know about a king hunt because, even though we are in Michigan, I don't know if I can deal with that kind of cold up there.
Yeah.
But
sure.
I might have to follow you on the flooded timber on that standpoint, but it's also, it's a hard question because it's like, okay, are you doing public? Are you doing a guided hunt? Dakotas, you're freelancing. But honestly, a guided like timber hunt like that, I don't know. I even though it's a guided hunt, which I'm not too huge on, that might be just being in that timber with them birds, trying to find their way into the hole, or I don't know. I just watching those videos, like you said, are just insane to me.
Yeah. And man, even if I didn't pull a gun up and just sat back behind the camera and watched everything, watched my dog work, I mean, that'd be enough for me, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. It's yeah. And speaking of the dog, I need to meet him because it's been 2 seasons now. And the first time he came up, we were hunting the ditch, so it was kind of tough because I didn't know how the dogs were going to see the birds falling or whatever it may have been. And then this time we ran my 2 dogs, which it was, one of those things where it was kind of like the last warmer, cold days, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I next time you're up here, you need to bring him. Yeah,
absolutely. I'll bring him up.
It's I'm wanting to meet him because I remember the stories last year. I remember, the drive that he's got that you were telling me about. Yeah, I don't know. Just the curiosity's got me on the pup there. How old is he?
He's 8.
Okay. Now, did you train him yourself?
Yes. So I trained him, and I sent, there was a time where my other dog got sick, and I was working so much I couldn't keep up. So when you train, you get them to a stage, and then there's maintenance. You keep them
right
sharp for the season. So I had a buddy take him and run him some for me just to, keep him in shape and do some stuff. But for the most part, 99% of the training I did, and he turned out, he's a great dog. I love him. He's absolutely not changed a bit. He hasn't missed a step, and he's 8. Just a little bit of gray, but he is still just as fiery as he was when he was 2.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I will say on both dogs, which you've seen, both of them during that hunt. Rip, this is his first year, and, Ellie's 5 now, so she's been at it a little bit, but I personally will say the lack of training on my side, for what I want out of a bird dog, they do it. But in the circumstances of the birds landing in the corn or whatever it may be, it's tough because every dog's got its own personality-wise.
Mm-hmm.
Like Ellie's got, I'm going to get to it, but I'm going to take my time walking back and whatever it is. Rip's just a ball of fire and is going to go out there and grab it. And it sucks. Like this summer, I think I'm going to really just crack down on the dog training side of everything.
Sure.
But it's also, like I said, it's tough to get that drive, and it'd be nice to have a guy around here, which I've talked to a few about, teaming up with some other dogs, which also would be good for their learning process through it all.
Yeah.
Which Ellie's getting older, but just it's almost like a gym buddy, like you got a gym buddy, like he wants to go to the gym, but you don't, but he's pushing you. And you want to go, but he doesn't. You're pushing him, like one of those kind of things. Like if you're doing it by yourself, it's I'll go when I want to, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yep, it can be. You have those dry spells where it's like, oh my gosh, it's 95 degrees out, and I don't want to go out and throw bumpers or run blinds or mark. I just want to come home and kick my feet up and sit in the AC.
Right.
But, and
they've been sitting home all day waiting for you to get there, wanting to do something.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll tell the story, too. It was we were having a family Christmas party, and we were watching the Sam show that Yeti put out.
Sam show.
It was it's just a short clip. It was it was a guy training a black lab, and it went through its life and it passed, and how it was a stubborn dog, and it don't watch it because you're gonna cry. Because me and Jake, which you met Jake, my sister's fiance, he was there with me, and I look over at him, and we're both like crying at our family Christmas party watching this show, and everybody's like, "Man, what happened?" It's like, don't even ask about it, because then there's Ellie sitting there. It was horrible. So yeah, don't watch it. But after that hunt, after that show, I was like, man, I gotta get the dog out as much as I can before it's too late, and this, that, and the other. You start feeling bad that you get home and just want to relax in the AC instead of doing stuff with them. Oh
yeah, there's another one like that. Tony Vandemore. You know who that is? Tony Vandemore.
Yeah. It was with Kai.
Yeah, he has Kai, but there's he released one called A Dog Named Ruff. Oh my gosh, dude.
So I think Kai is Ruff's kid.
Yes.
Okay. So, I have seen this. So yeah, pretty much the same one.
Oh, dude, it was terrible.
Yeah, man.
I can't watch that stuff, man. It eats you up. Even like movies, if dogs die, man,
it's horrible.
Yeah.
Man's best friend.
So weird. But
I don't know. I don't even want to get on the topic because I'm going to start tearing up, and nobody wants to hear me tearing up. I don't know. You got anything else for us? Any questions I'll bring this up, which we talked about, like the camera with you in Arkansas, actually, or like if you were to go on one of those hunts. I was super glad the hunt that you guys just came up on, that you guys brought the camera. Because there's not a lot of people that were there that day realize how good of a hunt that was.
Yeah.
You know, people see on social media about like the limits, or, you know, people out in Canada that are shooting just crazy long lines of birds, or people down south, whatever. But for a Michigan hunt, or just a hunt in general wise, people don't realize how good of a hunt and opportunity, or whatever it is, you know, that was. And I was so glad that you guys brought the camera to capture some moments of that hunt.
Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely an amazing hunt. It was not, lackluster at all. It had a lot of good moments.
Yeah. Yeah. And the funny thing was, you know, in the beginning, Sean, he's like, man, I don't know if I'm going to get any shooting or this, that, and the other. And he was worried about birds not kind of decoying in front of him. But I'll tell you what, in my opinion anyway, which I was at the end with the dog, but most of them birds were pretty squared away with everybody, and everybody was getting shooting. And you know, granted, it was a lot of people, don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
there was enough birds for them, or for the people.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Yeah, there were birds who landed on both sides. You know, the geese, obviously, in the beginning, they wanted to skirt off a little bit, um, but for pretty much the entire hunt, everybody had an opportunity to kill birds.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, I don't know. It was definitely one of those hunts that I won't forget, and very fortunate to be able to hunt a spot like that and be able to take people like you and your brother out. Because I've told the guys even after the hunt and after you guys left, like, you know, it's what a pleasure to take you guys out, and like the company that you guys are, it's, you know, very, very nice to have you guys out.
Yeah, and man, we can't thank you guys enough. It was finding guys that are just willing to say, "Hey, man, why don't you come up and hunt with us today?" And you don't really see a lot of those guys or even meet them. Most people nowadays are pretty self-centered that I've met.
Yeah.
And which, you know, whatever, it's each his own. But you know, you guys are very, very forthcoming, and you guys always have invited us, and it's very appreciative. We appreciate you guys, and even, you know, beyond business, it's, you guys are friends of ours, and we really appreciate everything you guys do. So
yeah, no, definitely likewise, for sure. And it's one of those things too, where, like you said, I understand the self-centered, or the staying away from the crowd, or whatever it may be, because, you know, we had two guys on a podcast that, you know, we ran into. It was actually the guys that were hunting south of us that day, last year's hunt. So we found out who they were. We've been in contact and stuff, and you know, at first they're like, "Man, why are you getting a hold of us, man? Like, what's up? Like, what are you trying to figure out?" And I'm like, "Dude, honestly, it's just we're hunting the same area, so why not just like be cordial and talk to each other and be cool and help each other out, because that's how we're all going to grow at the end of it." There's no need to be wishy-washy or starting drama or anything. It's just let's help each other out. So, like I said, they were on a podcast, and you know, it's just one of those things where I don't understand why people got to be so, you know, they close the door real quick on people when people are just trying to be genuine and learn, and it's tough.
Yeah.
It's a tough industry.
It's I don't know, man. It's kind of peculiar to me that, I don't know if it's just the way people are raised, or.
And it's tough too, because, like, you know, you want to be, and I'll say, I feel like we're kind of the same way, where we're trying to help people out, or trying to push the right way of doing things. And, you know, you talk to those certain people, and you might say a thing or two that's too much, and they're going to be backdooring you like crazy. So it's hard. So once that does happen, it's hard to open up your doors again to anybody else.
Sure.
And it's just one of those things where it's just a tough thing.
Yeah.
It's tough. But one last question for me. I don't know if you have any questions or not, but for hunters or, younger hunters getting into the sport, which this is, again, right off the top of the head, crazy question. Do you have any tips or tricks or advice for people?
Really, the one that comes to mind is be willing to listen, and to learn. So there's a lot of young kids, not that they're know-it-alls, but you got to be willing to learn and to be able to obviously learn from other people and get a mentor or somebody that's willing to show you the ropes and to help guide you at least to do the right thing. Because I think there's a lot of people out there that hop into the sport and don't really have anyone to help them.
Mm-hmm.
And it really, I guess it can really ruin other people's days, And so just to really be able to listen and say, hey, to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I know people get drug on Facebook and whatnot, but don't ever be afraid to reach out, either, if they're listening to you or to me or to whoever, and figure out what's the right thing to do. So
yeah, no, that's a super interesting one that I've never heard of. One, but obviously I can relate to that, but I just ask people these questions because it's nice hearing that kind of stuff and getting reminded, or that's just another way of telling people or helping people, because there's so many people that watch YouTube or see all this stuff that's going on and think that they're going to be the next Tony Vandemore or Fred Zink, or the list goes on and on. And they shoot one bird, and next thing you know, they're a guide service, and it's just like it's not that way.
Yeah, and I also think it's not just on the younger kids, but really on ourselves and the older people to be willing to help them out, and to be a good influence. If you show up at the boat ramp and there's some young guys, to reach out to them and say, hey guys, hey, where are you guys going to set up? Do you guys, need any help, or you guys want to hunt with us? And, a little bit goes a long way. And unfortunately, we ran into younger kids at the boat ramp, and they don't want anything to do with us. They're very standoffish and rude. And then you meet 60 and 70-year-olds, and they come over to your boat, and they're, shooting the crap with you, saying, hey guys, what you doing today? Where are you going to set up? We didn't want to set up too close. And
they're just happy to be away from their wives and get out there.
Yeah, they're just enjoying going out. And, it's not all about just piling birds. Really going out and just having a good time. I love spending time with my dog. I love spending time with my dad and my brother and friends, and just honestly, man, being out. It's just something I love. So it's not all about killing ducks. That's the bonus. And a lot of people have kind of gotten away from the actual sport of waterfowl and just, more of that Instagram stuff with its, making piles and whatnot, which is cool and fun. But, it, going back to the roots of what it's about. And I think that's important. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's literally the last day of duck season after watching that Sam show I was telling you about. It was probably my favorite hunt of the year. We hunted that same hole that we hunted, and then, I was like, Ellie didn't come out this morning. I'm just me and the dog, and if I shoot one, great. If not, whatever. It is what it is. But I think I shot 3 geese and a duck, Drake Mallard, and it was just spending the time out there and not. It was just, I don't know. It was a relaxing time, because
It's very
obviously
relaxing.
we got some crowds that come with us, obviously, but like you said, just going back to the roots and just me and the dog and enjoying the moment and being out there and being able to be out there.
Yeah. Yep. It's very relaxing and enjoyable, and that's just something I love to do. So
Yeah, which obviously I know it's probably tough for you guys to come up and here's 12 people in the corner or the blind or whatever it may be, and half of them you don't know when you guys are hunting, 2 to 4 people down there. And that's, I guess, why probably that hunt stands out for me the most, just because I got to enjoy it and get away from that crowd, because we're with 10 people every single hunt, it seems like.
oh yeah. Yeah, not sometimes, pretty much every time I go out with just myself and my dog, they're just special moments,
Yeah, no, 100%. It's
You're not worried about anything.
no, no, you're not at all. And that's why one thing where, like, the deer hunting this year, which I just got back into, which we talked about a little bit before the podcast, going out there and just getting away from life itself. And same with the dogs, like going out waterfowl hunting with the dogs, just you and the dogs. Just getting away for a minute and finally getting that, like, fresh breath of air.
Yeah.
It's
almost a way to, like, decompress.
100%. Yeah, that's perfect way of saying it. 100%. But no, you got any more questions or anything?
Really, the only one that come to my mind was, so it's 2024 now. So what are you guys thinking about doing new this year? Do you have anything that you guys have planned? Do you guys have any new things coming out you're wanting to do, or anything that's
always for me personally in the industry is branching out, meeting new people, trying to help new people. I mean, that's a big thing for me. We get a lot of messages from people asking questions, whatever it may be. So I love doing that. And I've said it on the podcast before about, I do this podcast for people that can't find the answers on YouTube or whatever and get dogged on Facebook and stuff. So it's, I've had guys call me about, do I jump the geese out and then set the blind up, or, just to be able to help out. There's no dumb question out there, and not saying I'm doing the right thing, but just my opinion.
Sure.
And, the hunting aspect of it all, expanding field wise, you can never get enough property.
Sure.
But yeah, it's I don't know. I'm just real big on the learning aspect and helping others, to be honest with you. I mean, I can't get enough of that.
Yeah. Well, that's a good place to be.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of days where I go out and I'm not even unloading my gun. Just I care more and think more of my kick is seeing the enjoyment from everybody else. We shoot a pile, everybody's laughing, having fun, having a good time, and making those memories for everybody. That's my kick out of everything. Just like watching your dog work.
Yep.
Just one of those things. What's some of your guys' goals for the future? I know you talked about, the decoys coming out here soon, which, like I said, I'm super excited about seeing. What are some of your goals?
Oh man,
it's a broad question. I mean, it's
yeah. Really with business, getting some things finalized with the decoys, and really just moving forward, learning how to branch out, and really just creating a nice concrete foundation for who we are.
Mm-hmm.
So those things, and I don't know, really hunting wise, we don't really hunt a ton of private ground here, so I can't say. I mean, it'd be awesome to have 20 fields with, 5,000 acres or whatever. But,
right.
But, I really don't have any hunting goals. I mean, there's, obviously your trophy birds and stuff, but nothing really lined up with that. But really just business and family focus so far. So,
yeah, no, I 100% get that. I will say on top of that, as much as I want to teach people so they can learn, a big part of doing this kind of thing is so I can learn more myself.
Absolutely.
So the knowledge that I'm gaining from you and other people that I have on, that's another part where in the future that I look forward to gathering, I guess.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, because I feel like I just mumbled about all of that. But yeah, just gaining more knowledge about like the waterfowl and what people do and what works for them and what I've never even thought of even trying, just that kind of stuff.
Yeah. No, that's a great place to be. Needs to be more people like that are willing to help out and not be so all about themselves,
Right. I couldn't agree more. But no, Dakota, I appreciate you. I appreciate Gator Decoys. I appreciate every time you guys come up and hunt with us. You guys are always, more than welcome to. Great company one, great just people, you and your brother, and I always forget the other guy that you brought up that time.
Corey.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, just I mean, can't say enough about you guys and the products. I don't know. It's I look forward to the future for you guys and what you guys are going to have. And like I say to everybody, standing behind you guys and helping you guys, we're doing it for a reason. It's not just for publicity, or it's not the wrong reasons, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And we very much likewise. We can't, even if, just meeting you guys last year or the year prior, it's been a privilege to be able to go out and to become friends with you guys. And I've learned a lot, even the 2 times we've come up, just sitting and chit chatting with you guys. It's been a lot of fun and we've had a lot of great time, and, the future's going to be bright for both of us. And I'm looking forward to doing more with you guys, and whether it's podcasts or we're going to expos or whatever it may be, it'll be a good time. So
yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I also wanted to shout out, GK Calls, another great group of guys. We use all their calls. The whole group uses their calls. The guys that call anyway uses GK Calls. And my ammunition. Hopefully he'll be able to shoot that load here pretty soon. And to see what the talk's all about. Can't say enough about those guys over there, and we've talked about those guys, through text, whatever it is. And obviously Gator Decoys. But no, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate being on for so long. And yeah. Anything else from you?
No, not at all, man. I appreciate you having me on. It's been a privilege.
Yeah, of course, man. Of course. Can't thank you enough. But yeah, thanks for everybody listening. Until next time, we'll see ya.